Hello global players, welcome to another video with me. I'm Raze and I am addressing you today from the future. Okay, tiny bit dramatic, but you know, it's been a day, so I'm allowed to be. Anyway, so today is a advice video for you guys in the future, because currently, you know, you're getting close to the 1 year anniversary, you're getting closer to some stuff, and I want to give advice for what is seemingly going to be the future of Wotv and what Gumi seems to be pushing here on the JP side, and that is that basically your mono element teams, they are really the best thing in the future. So I want to talk about in general about some stuff to deal with, some units that are coming very future or in the near future, and which units you should be going for and which units you should not be going for, and some of my regrets and some of the ones that I did get and I'm just not, you know, super feeling them. All right, so coming up very shortly should be like Ellie and Gabby. Both of those units ended up being pretty good. I think more out of the two of them, Ellie ended and I guess I should show this for people who are thinking like, what, Umbra, who the hell is Ellie? This is Ellie. You probably know her if you've been playing through the story. This character has been more influential, I think, than a lot of others. I've seen her a lot more in Arena, partially because of element synergy, which is something we need to talk about as well. But something that I really think is important to note is that she is a really good unit, and her main job is just really good, and I think globalers have got a taste of that. But this unit is an enabler for swords as a whole. So if you have like Blingstern, if you have a whole bunch of other units, I think that this is quite possibly a unit that you really should just get. You know, steal her, whatever you got to do. But I do think that she is a big part of enabling like future sword teams. She has good longevity. She's good in raids. She is a unit that I think has been a good value for me. Taking a look at Gabby, on the other hand, this is a unit that I still really like. I generally, he is one of my favorite units in the game, but I just haven't used him a ton, and I've had a more difficult time kind of slotting him into teams, and I think he hasn't quite performed quite as well as I thought he would. I do see him in Arena. I do see some people using him, but definitely not as much, which is generally I like the unit. I just think that maybe he quite hasn't worked out as good as I thought he would. That being said, I still think he's really cool and potentially really powerful. Maybe he just needs, maybe I just need a more dark element focused team. And of course, we go into the Final Fantasy X units, and I've talked about endlessly about that. But I do want to kind of note for this video where I'm giving advice for the future. I do think Tidus is better than I gave him credit for. If I was to take a look at all three units, Auron is particularly a unit that I think is still really good. That my opinion hasn't changed on that. What hasn't changed, I think, is my opinion about how good and how necessary he was. Taking a look at his kit, he seemed very anti-magic, and I have fought him multiple times, but I think that he didn't quite live up to as being as good of an anti-mage character as I thought he was going to be. I thought he was going to be like just, oh, he's going to be the shutdown of Yuna, and he wasn't. And so, yeah, I think that my opinion on him, especially with another unit that we have to talk about coming out in the future, I think that Auron is potentially a skip. If you like him, fine. He is a powerful unit. It's just that I think he hasn't performed quite as well in the game as I would. Tidus, on the other hand, is really freaking good, and I would recommend that if you are not going for any of the Final Fantasy X characters, go for Tidus. He makes the elemental chaining thing incredibly easy. His Hastiga is good support. He's a solid water elemental character regardless. I really do think he's way more powerful than I thought he was. even maybe without the vision card, I still think he's just really good. So definitely do. Titus is a big recommendation. Yuna is a big recommendation for obvious reasons. I don't really think I need to talk about that. Talking about the Nier collaboration, which I do think is going to happen on Global. My overall opinion is, I think, still the same. And what I mean by that is that I think that between the characters, 9S ended up being the way better of the characters for a couple of reasons. First of all, 2B is very based around evasion, and guess what? There's a class that kind of just ignores evasion, and it's a popular class, right? So I don't particularly think that 2B was good for that reason. I also think that 2B ended up being a particularly bad investment because there's been so much ice content because of another character that I need to talk about. But I do think that overall 2B has gotten an incredibly short end of the stick, and in the future she might be really good. But in terms of investment, 9S was way better. 9S is a very powerful unit. The first copy of him, he's really good. The Thunder element has been more just better in a lot of content recently. I heard he's even good in the most recent tower. So yeah, 9S is the one I recommend building. Definitely 2B is one that if you enjoy the character, fine. Again, still powerful like Auron, but kind of screwed over by the content that has come around her, and I don't feel like she's really lived up to her potential yet. Because you gotta think of where you want to spend. And last but definitely not least, I'm going to be talking about Mont. And as for Rule is still pretty new on the JP side, and I don't think she's that essential at this point. See a footnote in a later video that I have not recorded yet for more details on that. But last but not least is, in terms of characters to talk about, is Mont. And new version of Mont is a he is a really big deal. This is a unit that I don't think is skippable for anyone. He is a next generation tank. He is a double cost unit, fine. But he is a unit that a lot of content has been focused around lately, and I have been noticing that more and more. Farming content recently has been focused around having a unit to soak up damage. The tower definitely has content that is focused just around this unit specifically. And not only that, but like the raid and everything, like this unit has been a really big thorn in my side because I did not have him very well built. I got him pretty late. I didn't get the most amount of free shards that I could have, or, you know, cheaper shards that were an opportunity at that point. Still got a fair bit, but regardless, skipping Mont shards is a mistake, and a new version of UR Mont, I think, is the one unit that you really definitely need to save for in the future. This is like Warrior of Light again, but Warrior of Light 2.0 in an element that you probably maybe don't have a character. And for people who are like, well, what about Rain? Rain's not really a physical tank, so the content isn't exactly geared for him. And Larudo as well, a character that I didn't really talk about, but that kind of tells you how influential I think Larudo has been. This is just the unit. I think that this unit is really strong kit. Really probably going to be essential for a lot of content in the future. And he's double cost. I know it's expensive, but I do think that this matters the most. But all of this kind of pales in comparison to what I need to go back to, which is recent content. And recent content on the JP side is very focused on mono element teams, to the point where you just do not get benefits from not running a mono element team. And one of the big benefits that you get is a +3 version of the weapon. Take a look at this. So this new weapon that came out on the JP side for Rule is you basically get a +3 version. That is a fair amount of farming that you do not have to do. Not as nice as getting a +4, but stay calm. Baby steps at this point. Remember, Gumi can only do baby. Taking a look at this, I mean, like, you basically need a mono earth element team. You can bring friends to potentially do this, but even then, it is pretty tricky to have the rest of that team, especially in a hard difficulty one. You just need a solo element team, and I think it is kind of a big ask. And this isn't just recently happened. This has been happening for the last few of the farming stages. Like, we've needed mono fire element teams. We've needed mono, and not only that, but, you know, raids have been focused more on just being mono, very specific element, and the tower as well is being focused more on mono specific element. So if I was to give an advice to globalers in the future, it's to make a mono element team for every type and just see how far off you are. Definitely, you know, Titus and some of the free units will help, but, you know, can you build a wind elemental team? Can you build a lightning elemental team? Can you build a light, dark, water? I mean, all of the vision cards recently have been so focused on solo element. If you look at the most recent one on the JP side, I don't even have to search that far. Here it is. Like, this card right here gives bonuses for earth elemental units only. Like, that is a big deal. They really are just pushing people to build a elemental or a solid elemental team for each and every element, and it is exhausting to say the least. But hopefully this advice will reach globalers a little earlier, and they'll be able to kind of start thinking about, you know, which content I want to do. You should really look at the content that has come on the JP side, you know, weapons and everything, and figure out, like, where you want your elements. Definitely, I feel like fire has been a really important element over the last little bit. Light has been a strong element. Dark has been a strong element, and Earth's kind of getting its chance right now. And not having these elemental teams, I mean, it does hurt, because you're either just being relegated to farming more for a lot of this stuff, or, you know, you're kind of just being like, oh, well, I guess I just pass for not being interested. Is not getting the book right now going to hurt me potentially later? Don't know. I mean, Nickel could show up and be like, well, we're not putting the book out again. We're putting some other piece of equipment that's supposed to help him. So, yeah, I do think that globalers should be very aware of the fact that they are really trying to push mono elemental teams, and it is an expensive proposition with EX jobs coming in the future too, which is something that globalers just have not had the extreme pleasure of dealing with yet. But don't worry, you guys will be dealing with it sure enough in the future. And to talk about the future from my experience as well, talking about EX jobs as the last point I'm going to make. EX jobs, something that I have noted more recently, because I have been extremely choosy with which characters I have wanted to EX. I've been noticing in Arena, and especially in PvP, is the fact that, you know, a lot of level 120s are just quite frankly roadblocked. You know, you run into a Gilgamesh combined with a Mont, combined with a Yuna, all at level 120, and it's just really almost impossible if you haven't kind of gotten that in certain cases. So yeah, EXs are a bit of a pain and are kind of crowding out a little bit, but you kind of got to decide where you want, because resources are only so much. So if you take a look at, you know, oh, do I want to EX Mont, or do I want to potentially save in the future for pulling Stern? You're going to end up, if you do end up doing the waiting thing, which is the thing that I'm kind of doing right now, you kind of end up with this position of, you know, you end up in a position where you're not as powerful, and you can't do certain content that does get you gems, free gems every week, like Arena and PvP. And it has hurt even like my account, my experience recently. So I do want to give a special mention to that I think it has been a little bit annoying trying to keep up with new units, but also building certain units and EXing other units and building mono elemental teams. It's a lot of pressure, and they're definitely trying to get people to spend as much as possible because, you know, it's just treadmill, man. They found a way to treadmill it, and rough on the JP side. We don't have as good a rates as you globalers do. I mean, I'm not going to make this a complaint about the JP side video. I could probably make that a separate video. So yeah, leave your impressions in the comments. This is something that you globalers should be aware of and start getting ready for, because coming soon to a game near you. Thank you very much for watching. Take care.